Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes. Welcome back to part 2 of our What is Going On with These Hosts update. I am Sophia Pavia, registered dietitian, nutritionist, who specializes in women's fertility and making optimal progesterone so you can get pregnant, stay pregnant, and bring home your healthy baby. And I am here, of course, with my beautiful co-host, Caitlin Johnson, also a registered dietitian, also nutritionist, specializing in women's fertility and PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And this is a second part of a two-parter. Part 1, we talked about my recent diagnosis and what's going on with my fertility journey, my body, and my uterus. If you want to listen to it, you should. If you just want to jump into this one, I'll tell you, I've got endometriosis and a big old fibroid, and I've got to deal with that. But now that we've talked about me and my nonsense, it is time to talk about Caitlin, who has much more exciting things happening because she has recently lost a bunch of weight. And we're going to talk about that today. And so I know it might seem sort of triggering. This isn't going to be like a get skinny or die trying episode. This is just going to be about some really sustainable and applicable things that Caitlin has started doing. Sort of with the goal of losing weight, sort of with the, hey, I'm in my late 30s and I have to do certain things in order to feel good and be the person I want to be. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So welcome back to part 2.
Yeah. And sort of with the goal of like, are we going to have another baby? So it's definitely fertility relevant.
Yeah. That's a huge
healthy
piece that I should have remembered.
No, that's okay. It's just a part of the story. And with PCOS, there are ways that you can really mitigate risks by managing your weight. It's just true. It's not fun to hear. It's not fun to have to do as someone with PCOS. But weight does carry with it some negative impacts on metabolic function that is already kind of more difficult for somebody who has PCOS like me. And so it's part of the whole kit and caboodle.
Well, let's just jump right in and talk about that piece of it, because that can be sort of sticky tricky, because Caitlin and I are both pretty weight neutral in our approach working with people. We don't really make it about the weight, and weight isn't a strong indicator of your fertility. It's also not one of the main metrics we use to know whether or not you are going to get pregnant or not get pregnant, or how your pregnancy is going to go. And at the same time, it's not irrelevant. It's not the most important thing. It's certainly not the only way, but it isn't irrelevant. And so we're doing an episode here that's a little bit touchy, because usually we are so weight neutral. And I think that we still are, because to be weight neutral, you do need to have a conversation about weight. We can't just pretend that it's irrelevant, because it isn't. We would be doing you a disservice. We'd frankly be lying to you if we said it was irrelevant. So with that said, Caitlin, and take it away.
You know, I think there's just so much context, especially if you're a newer listener. Like, I was diagnosed with PCOS young in my life, right into adulthood. I am from a family where my mom and my sister struggled with getting pregnant. I was told it would be really difficult for me to get pregnant at diagnosis with PCOS, and I was not the skinny kid growing up. Like, I was definitely had bouts where I was probably overweight and times where I was more active. I had one summer where I really restricted my eating because I just didn't want to go into high school really overweight. And for me, restricting my eating looked like I ate kind of just like a normal amount of food. Just didn't go crazy with the foods I loved, which I did at times growing up, as children should probably do. Like if you love watermelon and somebody's like, you can have as much as you want, like why wouldn't you want to eat more watermelon? Like I think of that instance because my daughter loves watermelon, and I cut one the other day and she ate like almost half a watermelon, and I was like, that's great. Enjoy it. Go run after.
Gosh, she must have had to pee like 20 times after that.
Crash. But like that's good and okay. But it can also borderline disordered, and I'm not sure how much of some of my eating tendencies came from kind of a mom that struggled with some mental health issues, and a dad that traveled. And a lot of times, like, I think she took the easy road where, you know, it was easier than fighting me to eat a lot of vegetables. She let me just have the spaghetti with butter and Parmesan on top, and I didn't have to eat the salad that she made. And it was easier than putting up a fight while dad was out of town and she was already doing all the things, you know? So I can see how things that were unintentionally maybe directed towards me having negative health behaviors were just under what made our household work when I was young. But I didn't have a lot of really healthy eating principles. And you know, Sophia and I both grew up in the time
because
of the pyramid.
you were like one of the healthiest eaters I know. And that's just so wild to hear that that wasn't always you. Because you just think, you know, you meet people and you think they just sprouted up out of the ground this way. You don't think about the journey it took to get them there.
Such a good point too, Soph, because I literally, there is a story in my family where I went and visited my Aunt Beth, my Uncle Kevin, and she forced me to eat a salad, and I like gag reflex threw up all over her because she like literally forced me at 3.5 to eat a salad. And then the next time I went back, the funny part is they were unrelenting. They forced me to eat carrots. That time I didn't throw up. But yes, like there's almost nothing that I won't try or won't eat. And I eat a very wide variety of vegetables these days, which is the thing as a kid I really hated. But I also didn't love a lot of protein. Like I ate hot dogs. I didn't like chicken nuggets. I really did not eat a lot of protein. And I am sure that those tendencies, especially carrying into my early adulthood when I moved out of the house and didn't have somebody telling me what to eat, really played a role in things. But I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I just want people to know there's context to comfort foods, context to ways of eating, context
and that
to
even though
realizing
the dietitian you see before you today is a PCOS expert who has helped hundreds of women and who expertly manages her own PCOS, she didn't just fall out of a tree like this. Like there is a superhero origin story, and she's a person just like you. Hell yeah, she likes Hershey's Kisses and s'mores. Freaking, you ever had one? It's delicious. She doesn't just, oh, well, it's easy to do this when you're Caitlin, because Caitlin is this and that and the other thing, and she likes these things and doesn't like those things. No, she's really not different from you. She's had a different education, but she's not different than you.
Yeah, and frankly, man, my education didn't tell me a whole lot about blood sugar balance and
God, right?
a lot of these things, but we won't get stuck there. I had probably 3 times in my life where I was really overweight. Once as a child, once in early adulthood, and I don't know if I'd say I was really overweight after I had Seamus, but I was.
Seamus is her third baby, her youngest.
Weight for me. Yeah, so I went into pregnancy with Fiona at about 150. Like like all women do, I fluctuated with my cycle. My first baby, I started pregnancy 150 to 155. I had Fiona, and when you have a baby, you lose the baby weight, literally, the placenta, blood volume. your uterus shrinks back down to a normal size. Like in
tons
the
of
process
fluid,
of having
all
a
this
baby,
amniotic fluid.
totally. You can lose like 20, 25 pounds in the first week of having a baby, including the baby itself, right? Like that can happen like that. And that happened with Fiona. And I just kind of like with breastfeeding and not sleeping and a lot of anxiety, probably some rapid heartbeat, I lost my baby weight so easily. I didn't exercise much. Like we went on walks, but that was really it. And a year later, I was basically back down to my pre-pregnancy weight. It was more like 155 to 158. And then I got pregnant with Bonnie, had normal pregnancy, had this baby, experienced similar weight loss, really focused after having Bonnie on making sure I was eating enough postpartum because I wanted to kind of cross that off a list of, could this be why I struggled with breast milk supply with Fiona? So I was very intentional of eating enough, making sure I was eating enough. And after having Fiona, I certainly was eating enough. I don't know that I was really eating enough to support my breast milk production without losing weight. Like it makes sense to me why it was so easy after Fiona. With Bonnie, I lost the weight just as fast, but I was eating a little bit more. And that was incredibly intentional. And we waited more between my pregnancy with my second and my third by about like an extra 6 months, actually closer to 7 months. And I was right back down to that like 155 plus or minus a few pounds based on my cycle. Feeling really healthy. We were walking a lot. I was not incredibly like, I couldn't go run 3 miles. I couldn't do certain exercises I could do before having children. But I was doing yoga and walking and a generally active life with my children, cleaning my own house, making 3 meals a day, like an active person. And I went into pregnancy with Seamus kind of with that routine, pregnant with 2 little ones. Really, for most of my pregnancy, I had a 3 and a 1-year-old. We moved across the country, had this beautiful baby boy, and I think at the end of my pregnancy, I weighed about 193 to 195. I'd gained about 35 to 40 pounds in that pregnancy. And after having him and a couple weeks after, I was down to about 175. And I, with all my children, really did not focus on trying to lose weight. With Bonnie and Fiona, the postpartums, it just kind of came off. After having Seamus, I had that same mindset. And very quickly after having him, I realized like, hey, I have postpartum anxiety, or I just have anxiety that needs to be treated. And for the first time, I went on medication. And the medication was life-changing for me and really helpful. My anxiety was kind of like this like mouse in my head running in a circle all the time. And it really presented in an usually otherwise incredibly patient person. I just am a very patient person. I couldn't be patient with my children, and I'm not a yeller. I would like find myself yelling at them at the drop of a pin. And that was just weird and out of character. And I just immediately went to the doctor and was like, I need medication. This isn't right. This isn't good. I've walked this road before. I can't go down it again. And I was very direct with the doctor that I wanted kind of a weight neutral mental health drug, one that wouldn't
much start there
be likely.
And then, if you need something more, then
Absolutely. I wanted to start with something like that. And they prescribed Lexapro, and I was on a very low dose of it and saw relief very quickly, which sometimes people describe taking mental health medications, and doctors will even set kind of a precedence that it can take 6 weeks, even a couple months for you to start really feeling the effects of it. And not me. I knew right away, like, this is a good fit and really important for me. Right away, I had a lot of relief. About the same time, I started I was struggling with kind of this 4 or 5 months postpartum. My son was waking up only once or twice a night, and I was just starving when I would wake up at night. And my room was right next to our pantry, like literally like the closest thing from my bed. Like the pantry was closer to my bed than the toilet was to my bed. So I would get up.
Don't want to make that mistake.
I would change a diaper. You certainly wouldn't. Never did.
No, you never would, but that's just so funny to think about.
I'd lay him back down, and I would like, I was hungry.
Caitlin's trying to tell a real story, and I'm being a fool. I'm a fool. Okay, I'm sorry. Caitlin, go on. Go on. I'm imagining you.
So I would finish nursing. I would finish nursing my baby. I would change his diaper, get him re-swaddled or whatever. Not really re-swaddled because he was too old for that. I'd lay him down, and I would go get a snack, which I recommend. Like, if you're nursing in the middle of the night and you're hungry, go get a snack. If you're thirsty, you should be hydrating. And what was fun and yummy to me was potato chips. And that was not a really nourishing choice in the middle of the night. But you know what I really wanted was the salt. And that should have been a clue to me. But what it did, and what I haven't really talked openly about, and I mentioned it in the caption of a post, but I really haven't talked openly about it, was it started this almost like binge eating type quality to my evening snacks, where I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to get a handful, and then I'd go lay down, and then it would be like all I could think about. And the next time I would get up and nurse him, I wouldn't get a handful, I'd get a little bowl full. And then I'd finish the bowl, and sometimes I'd go get one more bowl, and I'd lay back down, and I'd drink a lot of water, and I'd be like, so hydrated. That was so tasty, and nobody needed to know about it because I could just go do it and lay back down. It totally, like, there are 2 times in my past that I can remember binge eating episodes. One was in college when I was studying nutrition, working full time, like literally a 40-hour week, going to school, taking like 2 science classes with the labs, trying to go to a church on Sunday. Like, I had every minute of my life, every waking moment scheduled. And then like an exam would come. An exam would come. I'd stay up as late as I could studying. And then I would like go sneak down into the garage, was the pantry at the house I lived in there. I won't waste time explaining why, but it was. And I lived with some friends, a husband and wife and their 2 kids, and I would go eat cereal. And I would like pour a bowl of cereal and milk and eat it. And then I would pour another bowl, and I would like eat it in the garage because I didn't want anybody to know if they came down that I was eating cereal at 12:30. And that was always precipitated by the lack of sleep and stress. And the other time in my life when I had binge eating tendencies was when I was on restrictive diets. Is I would like tell myself that I couldn't eat such and such, or I couldn't have dessert. And so I would like go around our kitchen and eat almost everything else because I just had this craving for this one thing. And what I turned to is such a funny combination is we got these really good, Sophia will totally get this, like up in the Pacific Northwest, we had the best blueberries. And there was this company that froze them, and they were like big, bursting blueberries, and they were so juicy. And if you got them frozen and you poured a little milk over them, or in this case was the time I was off dairy because of PCOS, I really liked a soy milk over them. I would eat them, and I could eat like 3 really large 16-ounce cups full. But it felt healthy, right? Because it's blueberries and soy milk. Come on. Like, it's not a terrible choice. But it was a binge eating episode. I would do it, and that wouldn't be enough, and I'd go back more, and I wouldn't want people to see me do it. And that, there was like this one night that I laid in bed dreaming about these really yummy crinkle cut potato chips with salt. after I laid Seamus down at a nursing session that I realized like I'm back to binge eating. And there's something that needs to be addressed here. And I was embarrassed about it, which is a sign of like a true binge eating episode. It was happening kind of in private. I was doing things to like cover it up and not make it seen, almost like an addictive behavior that I've seen in
like hiding the
alcoholics around me, where they like
and
fill the vodka bottle with water in the freezer so it looks like there's one that hasn't been touched. And it just dawned on me that like there are things that are not being addressed here in my life, emotionally, maybe nutritionally, sleep and stress-wise, that needed to be addressed for me to kind of move through this. And I stopped cold turkey. I stopped buying potato chips if they weren't in the house. It wasn't something I like ruminated on. I wasn't having these episodes with anything else. And frankly, I cannot blame the amount of weight gain I had on potato chips alone. But it does just kind of show you where I was at mentally with like, I'm intentionally not trying to lose weight because I know that hasn't been good for my mental health postpartum. I'm not even going to approach that. But I'm not obviously being active enough or anything for me to even just like maintain where I'm at, especially with exclusively breastfeeding at this point. And so I started just noticing things, noticing like how I felt after I ate. Am I eating too much? Am I eating too little? I started noticing, are there certain meals I'm eating that make me feel tired? I started really paying attention to symptoms of PCOS that I had struggled with in the past to manage. Like, are these starting to come up? Is my insulin resistance driving a little bit of this? I had really good glucose control throughout all 3 of my pregnancies, but I did go in and have lab work just to see like where my insulin resistance was, what my testosterone was looking like, and all of it looked fairly good. Like nothing was the canary saying like you should watch out for this. I had just like a normal physical, and my cholesterol came a little bit higher, but I was breastfeeding and that can be normal. And so it was just kind of like, okay, well, there's not anything major other than my stress and my lack of sleep. So I'm going to tackle those things first before I even think about taking on losing weight. So the one thing that I could really impact then was sleep, so that my husband and I focused on that. Like he would do one of the first night wakings, just helping Seamus go back to sleep without nursing. And then soon enough, that one kind of dropped and I was only doing one breastfeeding session in the middle of the night. And that helped a little bit. But by
it's half the time anyway, you got to get up to like pee and get a sip of water, even if you're not breastfeeding. Most of us wake, albeit briefly, to like clear your throat, adjust your pillow, maybe pee, maybe take a sip, whatever, and then get back to sleep. So it's not like so disruptive, like getting up and staying up multiple times. Yeah.
Totally. So we get to the point where I'm like a year postpartum and I'm feeling like my stress is a little bit better managed. He's sleeping mostly through the night at this point. I'm walking more regularly and getting like maybe 4 2-mile walks in a week because we lived about a mile from a playground in our neighborhood and we'd go to it. So I kind of knew I was getting that activity. Things were somewhat stressful work-wise. It was right about when I was launching our app and my supplement line. And so there was a lot of things kind of up in the air with that going on. And I just could not take on anything else. And so I kind of just observed longer. Like I didn't make major changes. I started kind of paying attention to what I was eating, but I really didn't make any changes until we moved. we moved and it was summertime. So we're like fast forwarding another 6 months. And
so how old is your baby at this point?
He's a year and a half.
Okay.
And my husband's saying to me, like, are we having another? Because I had always said 3 is what I'm going to do. I'm not doing anymore. And after I had Seamus, I was like, I might have one company
too.
And so BJ was like really starting to say, like, I think it's time. Let's start trying to get pregnant again. And I looked in the mirror and stepped on a scale, and I was like, yeah, no, there's no way I can get pregnant right now. Because I had gone from that, we had Seamus, and I went from like 195, 97 down to 175, and I had gained all the way back up to 197. So in that, even if it was like a pound a month, pound and a quarter a month, I had gained back up to my highest pregnancy weight. Mm-hmm. And close to my highest like ever weight. And I, with my PCOS, with how tall I am and what BMI category it put me in, I just knew it was not going to be optimal. I also would be the oldest that I was ever going to be going into pregnancy. And I was like right above, I was trying to do the math right before we started. I flirted with the line of like overweight to obese at that BMI. And it changes the recommendations of like how much you gain in pregnancy and a lot of things. And with my history of insulin resistance, I don't want to get pregnant at that weight for myself. I decided that. And so I said to BJ, like, let's spend the next 6 months losing weight. And I need to get into a healthier place. I need to be more active, need to focus on nutrition. I'd really, really not been faithful with the supplements that had helped me get pregnant the first time, because it's just life. Like, we had moved, we were remodeling.
Who likes taking supplements? I'm terrible at it, frankly.
It was like a thing that fell off really easily. And so what I decided, like really early on, and maybe before I had a lot of time to think about it, was that I was going to make this journey public, and I was going to try and show the ups and the downs. I wanted to show how to make weight loss realistic. And I wanted to also show that weight loss isn't linear. That was a really big purpose of being public. That, especially as a woman with a cycle, like, you don't just cut 500 calories a day or exercise 500 more calories a day and lose weight in a straight line. It just doesn't happen that way. Our bodies carry water, our bodies store carbohydrate. When we store carbohydrate, we grab onto water, and it's heavy, and based on what you ate the day before or the movement you had or even how you slept, the scale can look different morning after morning. And one of the things that I do... And it's normal to have
periods of gain even through this, even if it's not something like that. Even if it's like...
Yeah.
I visited my sister, and we like ate fast food 3 times a day on the way there and on the way back. And then, I gained 2 pounds, not of water weight. I'm down 12 overall, but I gained 2 this weekend. And so the next 2 weeks, I lose those 2 again. And then here we are back on track. Like little things like that. It's not just water weight. It's sometimes your life. Or like I sprained my ankle and couldn't walk for 3 weeks, and I gained 1.5 pounds. Like, well, yeah, it's normal. We're taking a break to talk about our sponsor, Fertility Cloud. In working with hundreds of you ladies, we have noticed a problem that has come up. I know it's come up for me, Caitlin. It's come up for your clients as well. And that is not only finding a doctor who is going to know how to help you, but one that wants to. We have a lot of issues here, and sometimes getting a simple blood test or actually getting a medication or talking to someone who's actually an expert in fertility can not only take an insane amount of time, but it can feel like you're fighting your doctor.
Yeah, or you're playing like Russian roulette to get in front of somebody who actually cares. We are so excited to be partnering with Fertility Cloud because they have a solution for all of these frustrations. Just last week, I had a client that needed right now care, and we couldn't get her in front of an OB. And she got a same day appointment with Fertility Cloud and spoke to a reproductive endocrinologist and had a prescription that she needed in her hand hours later. This is a solution that our industry desperately needs, and we are so excited to present to you.
So if you're in a remote area and you have to drive 4 hours to go see a doctor, or if you've been to multiple doctors and none of them seem to really listen or really care or want to take an approach that works for you, start up with My Fertility Cloud.
My Fertility Cloud has provided us a link, so check it out in the show notes. That will get you $25 off your first visit with one of their providers.
We're taking a quick break from this episode to talk about one of our sponsors, the Prenatal Nutrition Library.
We love the Prenatal Nutrition Library. It's a searchable database and app, which means you have answers within seconds and peace of mind that what you're eating during pregnancy is both safe and nutritious.
It's almost like having your own personal pregnancy dietitian in your back pocket that's going to not only tell you, is it safe to eat this? How much of that should I have? Yada, yada, yada. But give you actual meal plans so you know how to put it all together onto your plate today. And the meal plans are trimester specific, meaning, some women are kind of nauseous in their first trimester and maybe they need specific foods to help combat that. Prenatal Nutrition Library has got you covered. Or the fact that your baby's brain is growing rapidly in your third trimester and you need your nutrition to support that. Prenatal Nutrition Library meal plans has got you covered there too.
This is evidence-based information. Registered dietitians are in this app weekly answering members' questions. There's an exclusive podcast within the app that's run by Ryan, who is the prenatal dietitian that founded this entire thing. It's a wealth of knowledge and resources and will take you far beyond that one-page handout your doctor handed you that actually probably has out-of-date information about eating in pregnancy.
So head on over to the Prenatal Nutrition Library as soon as you get your big fat positive. Well, okay, first message me and Caitlin so we can do a happy dance with you. Then head over to the Prenatal Nutrition Library to get clear strategies to meet your nutrient needs, as well as to take the stress out of confirming what's safe and most optimal for you and your baby while you're pregnant. Use code FFF20 for 20% off.
Hey guys, we're taking a break from our episode and I want to talk about something that's super confusing. When you head down the supplement aisle and you're looking for a prenatal, and on the prenatal bottle itself, it says, do not take if you're trying to conceive, pregnant, or breastfeeding. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it says talk to your doctor if you are pregnant, could be pregnant, breastfeeding, postpartum, whatever. And every supplement has this. You go down the supplement aisle, you go shopping on whatever supplement website, and there's a disclaimer on every bottle of every single thing, which means that everything that you've been taking your whole life long is now a big question mark about whether or not you are potentially harming yourself by taking something where you're trying to be healthy. So that is why we partnered with Needed. Needed is a perinatal nutrition supplement brand that has a wide array of products specifically designed for women who are pregnant, trying to become pregnant, breastfeeding, or postpartum. So it's not just that these products can work if you're in that situation, or it's probably okay if you take it while you're trying to conceive. No. These products are researched, they are formulated, and they are put together specifically for women who are trying to conceive, pregnant, breastfeeding, and postpartum.
This answers so many questions. I always get asked, what can I take? It's cold and flu season. What's safe? Needed has an immune support. That's safe whether you're trying to conceive, pregnant. It's even safe for your little ones.
And it's not just immune support. They've got collagen, they've got hydration support, they have digestive support, they have prenatal multi. They even made a line for dudes.
Needed is somebody we're really proud to be partnering with. So head over to their website and use code FFF20 for 20% off your order. So I set out to say, we're going to lose 5 to 10% of my body weight, but I really honestly wanted to lose a little bit more than 10% of my body weight, because if I was going to get pregnant again, I wanted to get under 170 pounds. And So I made a very public announcement. I'm going to try and lose weight. I even set up an accountability group for it, and people could buy in for $100 and get a module weekly for 10 weeks on how to lose weight. So I was choosing like a different goal for us to focus on every single week so that it was goal oriented in things you could control, like how much water you drank or if you did this type of exercise, and not over things you can't necessarily control, like what exactly the scale is going to reflect. And that was really fun. And I set up a Facebook group for everybody to like cheer each other on. You had to put it in your weekly goal, and that was really fun. I enjoyed that. And I started a weekly Friday kind of expose on like what was going on with my weight loss. And I would weigh myself on Friday mornings, and I would put kind of a chart of what my weight loss looked like. And I would say like what my goal was, any reflections on like how the week went, any insight into what I saw happening. So for instance, a week might look like, this week my goal is to do strength training 3 times a week. So I'm going to pull back on cardio a little bit. And I set out to lose half a pound to a pound a week. That was kind of like an overall goal. And then I would come back and weigh myself the next week, and it would be like, okay, well, you actually only on the scale lost 0.6 pounds. So I would try to explain what might have been also happening, why the weight loss looked like it went down less than normal weeks. So when you do strength training, you're building muscle. Muscle's heavier than adipose tissue, and maybe you lost more adipose tissue, there was meant to be learning along the way. I would be open about where I was in my cycle and what that might have meant for water retention and why it looked like I lost no weight last week, and then I got to this part of my cycle and I lost 3 pounds. I was losing weight likely gradually, but I was retaining water. And so you can go back on my Instagram and for a while see like Friday post after Friday post after Friday post showing like these 3 weeks I didn't lose weight and what happened. And I would say like, we flew across the country and we did this, and I didn't focus on what I was eating. And
like my kids one by one all got the flu and we were stuck in our house eating snacks and watching shows. Yeah,
totally. I even got the flu during it, and you saw this like rapid weight loss. And so it was like, guys, this isn't to be celebrated. This was not good weight loss, and it's probably going to come back up. So, that was actually really kind of fun to take people along the journey of.
Yeah.
What didn't really happen, which was what I was kind of hoping would happen, was like that I'd lose weight and then gain a bit of it, and I'd gain 3 pounds back, and then. But one thing I was kind of religious about was only weighing myself 1 day a week. And then there were a couple times in the midst of it all that I was in Seattle with Sophie and I didn't weigh myself, and I just I blew it off. I didn't care. Because weight loss isn't always linear. But you will see within the charts, if you look over time, at first it was a little bit more rapid and then it kind of leveled out over time, though I was still kind of losing. And my goal was to lose 20 pounds in between the end of May and New Year's. And I didn't hit that. It didn't happen that fast. And it didn't discourage me either. And that was something that was really beautiful about it, was okay, well, but I'm still losing. And I didn't make crazy life changes. I did not go on an overhaul crash diet.
So key to not getting discouraged, because when you're I am killing myself. I haven't had anything that I like. I've been hungry for 6 weeks straight. I hate everything. And I've only lost 3 pounds. That is so disheartening. But if you're I'm sleeping better, I have more energy, haven't had a migraine in 2 months, and I've lost 8 pounds, shoot, wanted to lose 12, but things are still going pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I think devil's advocate, you can play it both ways, right? You can totally be encouraged by that fact, or you could be well, I've only made these minor changes. If I dial it up January 1,
oh yeah, don't do that.
maybe I could hit it more. And And I think that a really big lesson here is you have to be making the changes that are sustainable and doable, because God knows human nature is to want to overhaul it all and see all the changes at once. But I am sitting here almost 30 pounds less than I was a year ago. And it's because I didn't give up and I just kept going. So I didn't hit that 20 mark by what I wanted to, but I did hit it. It was just like a couple months later. And then I still continued to lose a little bit more than that initial goal that I had had of 5 to 10% to maybe even consider getting pregnant. And I was very careful about certain things along the way. Like, I made sure there were no periods of undereating. I didn't want to slow my metabolism down. I wanted to speed my metabolism up to lose weight, not sabotage where I'm going to be 2 years from now. I have done the things that were sustainable and easy to incorporate and financially reachable for me. I didn't go get a gym membership and start weightlifting like I really wanted to and thought I should, but I didn't have the childcare to get myself there, and it just wasn't something I could manage. And so literally in the last month, I added that in because we joined the YMCA for the summer so my kids can go swimming, and I've been weight training 3 times a week. So it's like I've been, the expert, even
habit
myself,
stacking.
would have said, go strength train 3 times a week to myself last year. But that wasn't something I could do. What I could do was go for a 30-minute walk every day, which became a 60-minute walk, which became a 3-mile walk. And then I got addicted in a good way. Like, I mean that in the best sense of I wanted to do this thing over and over, to where when I didn't get my walk in, like, that was a really solid prayer time for me. That was a time where I'd listen to enriching podcasts for my business or my personal life, like a marriage podcast. Like, that was something that I really looked forward to. My kids and I would go out and they'd scooter. My husband and I would walk together, and it was like this communion fellowship time for he and I together. And so it became this thing that was really looked forward to. And I believe, and I've been a walker for a while, but like I really committed to it in a different way this past year, and weight melted off in a very sustainable way to a habit that I don't want to give up for the rest of my life. Like, I just find it so pleasing on so many levels, and it's such a healthy habit to show my children. Like, we have a meal, let's go for a walk. Like, it's what the Europeans do here. Like, it's what our family does. We do that, and it's time for us to talk together. It's time for us to be active. It's time for us to move our body without really pushing our body really hard, because there's times for that too, but like, that's not what we're doing right now. And that has been something out of this process that I would honestly celebrate as much as my weight loss, because it's become such a beautiful part of my day.
I love that. What a wonderful thing to do. And it's something you can do, just like you said, your whole life long. It wouldn't necessarily be that if you picked up Olympic lifting or something like that. And nothing wrong with people who pick that up later in life. Good for you. But it's something that you're going to do your whole life long, and you can find a way to enjoy it. And I think that so is the key, is like, there are some things you have to do because you have to do them. Nobody wants to clean up after the dog, but you also don't want your house to smell like poop, and you don't want to step in poop, and you don't want to leave poop around your neighborhood. You don't need that person. So you clean up after the dog because you need to. And there's a lot of things in life that are kind of like that. But this is like becoming a joy, where you really like how it feels, you like how you feel, and you like the results as well. And that is so key to like habits sticking. And I also want to point out the fact that you didn't just go do your favorite thing. Like, I'll tell you listeners, Caitlin has a Peloton. and she'll do a ride here and there. She has some resistance bands at home, and she'll do some resistance band workouts. And like she said at the beginning, she'd prefer to go have her me time in the gym lifting weights. That's just not always feasible. And so she sometimes just has to do what she can do. And that's a really great point, is you can't always just do your favorite, especially if your favorite is something like playing tennis or swimming. Yeah. If you don't have a swimming pool, if you don't have a tennis court right next to you, you can't do your favorite workout. So what are we going to only work out rarely? You can't do that. You got to find other ways that maybe aren't your favorite. Maybe you're not like looking forward to it, but hey, it gets the job done to do some push-ups against my desk, hold a plank, and do a 15-minute walk. Wasn't my favorite thing I've done today, but it did what I needed it to do, and now I'm moving on. And there's definitely space for all these things in your journey. Hey, it's me again, Sophia Pavia, registered dietitian nutritionist specializing in women's health, fertility, and optimal progesterone production. And I'm interrupting an episode of my own podcast to tell you about my online course called Ovulation Unlocked. So if you've been listening to our podcast episodes, you've probably heard a lot of things about basal body temperature, cervical mucus, cervical position, and tracking your fertility. Well, I have designed a 90-minute self-paced online course, which I titled Ovulation Unlocked, that puts all of that together and teaches you how to be the expert on your own fertility from home. This course is designed to put you in the driver's seat of your own fertility, not only so you can know what's going on with your body on any given day, but so that if you need medical help, you can show up to the appointment informed and ready to communicate. Too frequently, us women show up to our doctor's appointments and just say something like, I want to have a baby. And the doctor looks at you and says, good for you. Stop using birth control, start taking a prenatal, come back in a year if you're not pregnant. And that's all we get. However, Ovulation Unlocked puts you in the driver's seat, puts you in control of your fertility, to where if you need help, you can show up to that appointment informed and ready to communicate your needs. So if you want to become the expert on your own body and your own fertility, head on over to my Instagram bio and tap the Ovulation Unlocked link today.
Yeah, I think too, like reflecting on it, I was just with Sophia, and Sophia looked at BJ and I and we're like, what'd you guys do? How'd you lose this weight? And it's like, we walked and we ate good. like really?
And that part kind of threw me
a whole year.
Well, when you say we ate good, I'm like, I've never known you guys to not be, I mean, you are the one that's always like, ooh, well, can we get a little more fiber in that? Well, let's add a vegetable. I'm more the one that's like, let's go get brownies. And she's kind of like, I don't want a migraine. And, or like, I can't be tired the rest of the day. I can't do a brownie right now. And
yeah,
so that kind of, when she's like, we've been eating good, I'm like, but is that different? Because she sort of seemed to me like she always has been doing, or at least, for the past 15 years since she really started getting a handle on her PCOS.
I certainly wasn't binging potato chips in the middle of the night anymore. For us, and I think too, when I say we're eating better, sometimes I mean he's eating better, because I am not a police wife. I'm, I will make dinner and I put half a plate of vegetables on his plate, and I portioned the first serving. If he wants to go back and have seconds, I'm not walking my butt from the table to the kitchen again. Go get your seconds. You're a grown man.
And you're not going to be like, really, another plate of rice, BJ? Like, who wants to live with that person? No, I don't want that marriage.
I won't be that person. I won't be that person to a friend. Like, I'm not going to make comments about what someone else eats. And I think that surprises people about a dietitian. But, like, I want you to – love food. I love food. I love food to taste good. I love food to this. I love – like – enjoy your food. And I'm not your priest. I'm not your police. I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. But he also, like, I go to bed early and he doesn't. And it's, sometimes I'm like, oh, he ate the leftovers for midnight snack. Or, when he goes grocery shopping, this extra fun dessert thing came home that, like, slowly disappears throughout the week. He grew up in a family that ate dessert every night. And so, like, when I say we ate better, is he kind of tightened up some of those things. And I probably paid more attention to not eating seconds unless I was actually hungry. Like, I started tapping back into some of those things that help you reach health goals. Not just like, well, I made a healthy meal and if I want to eat more of it. Yes. Yeah.
Paying attention versus just being on autopilot and doing what feels good.
Totally. And I live a unique life where I have small children and elderly parents living with us. And my dad eats like a teenager. Like, sometimes the week's meal is like tacos, some sort of pasta, enchilada bake, yada, yada, yada. And I am being very intentional about like, what is the side or how much vegetables are in that enchilada bake. Like, if you eat chicken enchiladas at my house, there's more vegetables than chicken in them because that's how we make them. Mm-hmm. So, eating better also might have meant like really being more diligent about like not just getting Chick-fil-A on the way home because it seems easier with the kids. Like, no, we're going to go home and make our own chicken nuggets and I'll have a salad next to it instead of the fries I might want to eat of yours left over because you didn't finish it. Like those kind of things. Mm-hmm. I reeled in a little bit. The other thing I spent different periods of time throughout the year like recommitting to was taking my inositol. That was a goal for a week. Getting berberine in the mix for a few months to just kind of like help me work through not a plateau, but like a slower weight loss period I had. We brought a new supplement into the line called Appetite Assist, and that has a couple botanicals in it that have been shown to up your GLP-1s. And so I tested that out before we released it. And then I stayed on it for like 2 months and I saw my weight loss kind of speed up a little bit during that time. And so, there were like tweaks and things, but generally it was like we moved our bodies. I moved my body intentionally. I did do Peloton. So like sometimes the hour-long walk wasn't available or it was really snowy out. And so I'd hop on the Peloton for 30 minutes. The other thing that I got really intentional about was doing stretching and deep breathing before bed for a season. I've kind of gotten back out of it. But I'm really proud to say, like, I started at 197 a little bit over a year ago, like a year plus a week maybe ago. And I weighed myself. What day did we record the other day? Saturday? I weighed myself that morning because I wanted to know if we talked about my weight loss. And I was 169. So, woo! And I hadn't weighed myself since before we'd gone to Colorado, I think. So, like, I had lost another 4 pounds in about 3 weeks, which is great. I mean, at this point in my weight loss, a year in, getting to like a pound a week is pretty impressive, especially because I eat food. Like, I'm not over here starving myself. This morning I ate 3 eggs and half an avocado and half a piece of toast. We went to a zoo. We walked quite a bit. I had like a protein chocolate peanut butter bar thing. Came home and ate a piece of pizza that we had left over from dinner last night and made a salad next to it. Like, there's real food and real life happening and it's still working. So we're at a part in our journey where I'm like, okay, well, the thing I've wanted to do all year long and I haven't really been able to, but we're paying for right now is access to a gym. So I started weightlifting. I went like one time before we went to Colorado, and I've been about 3 times a week since we've been back at that cadence. It's been, I think, 5 times since we got back. And that's something that I'm hoping to maintain through the summer. And I'm also hoping to kind of wean down on my Lexapro throughout the summer, especially while it's a little bit sunnier and we're able to be outside more. And I'm hoping that by the end of the summer, if we decide we want to conceive again, we'll try. But that's kind of where we're at. I'm like, I feel like I reached my goal and some. Did it really sustainably along the way, had a whole year of real life thrown at me, and am coming out like 18 months maybe, or a little bit more than that, from those binge eating episodes that kind of woke me up to like, things aren't right and you need to pay attention here. To I don't really have those. I'm not in that headspace at all. And I can say, like, I used to listen to this PCOS podcast where she would say, like, nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels. I think that there is some wisdom to a statement like that. Like, we were in Colorado and somehow donuts came up, and Sophia and Fiona were like, let's get donuts. It was kind of this fun, like, I'm kind of like an aunt to you, and let's go have this special time and let's do it together. And Fiona's like, aren't you going to come? And like, there was a part of me that was like, I don't want to miss out on the time, but I also really wanted them to have this like special experience and moment. But also,
it ended up being
donuts.
Like everybody came. It was like my parents, my husband, my kids.
She still
it was
talks
a blast,
about
but it wasn't so much a moment for me and Fiona. It was like all of us. But yeah, it was fun. And I ate a really good donut. There was one there that I still think about. It was really good.
So I don't love donuts. Like, I would rather have a bagel and cream cheese than a donut. I've just never been the donut lover. But also, if I were to eat that in the morning, no matter how much protein I put by it, I would feel terrible all day long. It's just me knowing my body. And a year and a half ago, I might have been like, let's go have the experience. Who cares if I feel crappy? I don't feel great. Now I feel really good. And I'm like, I don't want to feel crappy because I want to go on that walk and cold plunge later. Like, that's the experience I want. And so for somebody listening to this and being like, man, 30 pounds feels like that would feel good to lose like 30 pounds. And can I really do it only by walking? And can I, like, my encouragement is to make that next change, make that next goal for the week that you're going to work on. Sometimes you'll see in these posts I did on Instagram, like, the goal remained. I didn't really succeed at it, or I saw some obstacles, so I shifted it a little bit, but it's really the same goal, or it's going at the same intention. And I need to keep going to really like instill this piece as a habit or get ahead on this area. Sometimes the goal was like, it's been crazy couple weeks and we didn't meal prep. This week I need to meal prep to like just stick to healthy choices. And make that thing that's right in front of you. You are listening to this podcast. You know a lot already. You already have this insight into your own life where you're like, I know I probably should adjust this a little bit. This is your permission to be an authority enough on your own body and self to say, that's the thing I'm going to work on. And I'm not going to wait for another tomorrow. There isn't a better time. I did a one-on-one with a client this weekend, and she's like, it's just really easy to feel like there will be another time. Why not just wait till tomorrow or next week or next or next or next? And it was a different version of like, I start over and I fail, and then Monday is a new beginning, and she's just like never having the new beginning. And I just said to her really gently, but really firmly, like, hey, honey, now is the best time. Tomorrow is not the best time. Tomorrow might be a time to choose this again, but right now you need to commit to this now. And I want you to hear that right now and be empowered to say, like, is it, I'm going to quit soda this week? Is it, I'm going to add a vegetable to breakfast, even though that feels odd? Is it whatever that, like, I know I need to do that. I know I've known for a while I need to do that. Like, this is your permission to just go do that.
To care for yourself because you are worth it. And that's so much of what I'm hearing from you, Caitlin. And I would love to hear you speak to this a lot more directly, is the self-compassion piece of this, having compassion for yourself and treating yourself well. I want to hear more about that from you, because that's really woven throughout this.
It's really true. And I feel like it's been a pretty big journey for me. Like, when I was younger, I spent that summer not eating because I didn't feel pretty, not eating what I had used to be eating less. because I didn't feel pretty and I wasn't skinny enough. I didn't look like the other girls. So I was doing it to like force my body into something. This had none of that in it. It was like, I have this goal of maybe we want to be pregnant again, and I don't feel great right now, but I'm also really aware of my bandwidth, and I'm really aware of what I can take on and what I can't, and I'm not going to set myself up to fail. And I think that there is a lot of wisdom in choosing that next small thing to really focus on and nail, not just so that it's like, oh, this was attainable, but because it's really good to feel like you accomplished something. And I weekly didn't maybe realize how great that was going to feel in just kind of like this commitment I made to my community. Like, I'm going to show up and show you what this really looked like. I also got to celebrate wins. And I was purposeful about certain things. Like, I didn't weigh myself every day because I didn't want daily to like be tied to that being my like metric of success. I didn't want to go for a walk just so that I could hit a certain point on the scale so that I could prove to everybody I could lose weight. That was not it at all. And once I started a health habit that really was good and stuck, it felt good. There was one thing I did struggle with midpoint, and I forgot that I wanted to bring this up. Starbucks came out with some sort of drink that I tried. That this wasn't a new drink, but I tried it for the first time on accident, was an iced something with vanilla cold foam. And I wanted that a lot. So I spent way too much money.
Here's an unrelated question. What is the difference between cold foam and whipped cream?
It's basically, I think, heavy cream plus whatever they make their Frappuccino thing out of, which probably is a lot of
Is it like the way they make it is different?
And then they put syrup into it, so it's got sweetener. And then they basically blend it. So it becomes like foam and not like a thick whipped cream.
It's more airy. But the ingredients sound identical. Okay, listen, we don't need to do this right now.
I think there's
some
a
conversation for another time.
But yes. So I like was realizing I was drinking a lot of those and they weren't necessarily helping me in any way. They were costing me money I didn't want to spend. They were giving me sugar I didn't need. And I would order them as like an iced half-calf Americano, but it was still like caffeine I didn't necessarily need to be consuming. And so I had like a good month and a half love affair with vanilla cold foam at Starbucks, basically from when I saw you in Seattle until nearly the new year. And I was like, I gotta stop doing this. But it was really easy. Once I decided I wanted to stop, I just did.
I remember also a time that, and it wasn't like you just stopped having them forever, because I remember you having a few hard days, or like there was a time I think that like all your kids were barfing or something, and I was like, oh my God, that is hell. What can I send you? And you were like, send me one of these drinks, because that drink was still there for you in a hard time. And listeners, you don't have to give up on things forever.
I would totally drink one tomorrow if somebody was like, here's $7. Or I'll buy you $7 from San Diego.
What?
It's ridiculous.
Name are we doing as a species where
whatever
a coffee is $7?
It's ridiculous. So yes, I mean, I think I could drink one tomorrow and not be like set off on a 4-week binge on it where I want it every day. But in any case, that there was something in there that it was like, this is real life. I want this. I bought it. And then I got over it. And so it doesn't need to be perfect for you to keep going. That's my point here.
I love that. And
so stay tuned. Maybe we'll get pregnant. Maybe we won't. We're not sure yet.
Maybe they'll try. Maybe they won't. Well, thank you, Caitlin. I loved hearing this. You really revealed a lot of things. And I think that anyone who's considering weight loss as a piece of their fertility journey would benefit from hearing this. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to add on to this episode. Thank you for sharing it with us. And listener, as always, remember to rate, review, subscribe, to share these episodes with people that you think can benefit from them, because there are a lot of ladies out there struggling to conceive, and we want to be there for them. Oh my gosh, the Yeah Girl. This episode sort of felt like a Yeah Girl because it was all good. But let's Girl.
Let's do a quick one. I have a good one.
Okay, yeah. I want to hear it.
I held hands with the lemur today.
What? Did you get to feed it a little grape?
I did that. It was a craisin, but yes, it was so
a craisin.
Fun. So there's this private zoo near where we live. We belong to like the public one because it's so much less expensive. And this other one's farther, and I bought it one year and we barely went. So I was like, oh, we can't do it. Well, in the summer in Kansas, they have this Sunflower Summer app where there are certain attractions you can go to, and the government or someone is subsidizing this for these places. Well, for the first time ever, this really cool private zoo, Tanganyika, on Mondays and Tuesdays, you can go with the app. So I was like, kids, let's go. It's a stormy morning, but it's going to stop. And so no one will be there yet. We'll be the first ones. And it was like quiet. I fed a giraffe. I fed a lemur. And all my children fed these two, a big old tortoise. I pet a kangaroo. Oh my God, I meant to say this in the episode we just recorded earlier. Did you know that when joeys are born, they're the size of a grape?
I did
they,
know that.
Crawl. I didn't know this.
And then the nipple swells in their mouth to where they can't even spit it out, and they're basically just like hooked in, like one of the, like when you're in the Matrix in your little pod. And they're just inside the pouch. Yeah, I did.
I didn't know this. These red kangaroos, today a little foot came out of the pouch, and they were like, oh my gosh, it's growing so big. Yeah, we got to pet so many fun animals. So this private zoo, it's pretty cool. But I had my craisin out, and then the little lemur came and just held my hand for a minute. And I was like, take a picture of us. We're best friends. Might be my new favorite animal.
I love kangaroos too. Yeah, girl. Yeah, girl. My yeah, girl is that I finally got to see the physical therapist for an injury in my shoulder that's been giving me hell for like a month now. And even just after one visit where he had me move in certain ways and did some work on it and then cupped it and taped it, it already is like 50% better just after this little bit of work on it. Thank God. So that's my yeah girl, is feeling better. Like it hurts a little bit to lift it, but it hurts less than it used to hurt. That's for sure.
And we recorded 2 episodes in one day. Yeah, us.
We did. Yeah,
people.
girl.
You're listening.
Yeah, both girls. Yeah. We did a Win Wednesday just before this with Sarah. So if you haven't listened to that, make sure you give that a listen too. I'm
going to go make Mexican dinner for my children. It's gonna be yummy and not too spicy.
I'm gonna go to the grocery store. Okay, well that's another episode on the books. Y'all, see you next time. Hey, it's Sophia. If you love the show and want to continue your health and fertility journey using our resources, head on over to foodfreedomfertility.com for show notes, links to products and services, information about our guests, and our newsletter. Again, that's foodfreedomfertility.com. Thanks for listening.